off with Emily, the co-host here, and we'll have Flor, Liam, Tim, and Robert introduce themselves, and in 3 to 5 words, why do you love the Cayman Islands? Okay, go ahead, Flor.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Fleur Coleman. I'm born and raised in the Cayman Islands. I've been here now for 45 years. The island's an amazing place. I own a brokerage on the island. I've been in real estate now for 7 years and in sales for about 25. My 3 words to the Cayman Islands are security and safety, sunshine, and the best infrastructure in the world, pretty much.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Liam Day. I'm the Managing Director of BCQS International. We're a development consultancy that operates throughout Latin America and the Caribbean. I moved to Cayman for 2 years in 1990 and just never quite got around to leaving. So that sort of place. Why the Cayman Islands? Similar to Fleur, it's safe, politically stable, and very cosmopolitan.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Tim Ryder. I'm the Executive Vice President of Corporate Development for Sterling Global Finance, which is a trust company, a bank, a mutual fund, and a developer. I retired 5 years ago from RBC. I failed at that, and have joined back into the workplace. And why Cayman? Well, I think it's the people, which are fantastic, the professionals, which are second to none in the world, and then just the general vibrancy of the market.
Yes, my name is Rob Weekly, and I work for DART as a Senior Vice President of Development Planning, basically overseeing and providing leadership to undeveloped lands in the Grand Cayman. Hi, Fleur. I originally arrived in Grand Cayman in '99. One of my first meetings was with Mr. Day here, who's also on the call, so that's only 24 years ago, Liam, so doesn't make me feel old at all. My 3 words for Cayman is, why do you love the Cayman Islands? And I say, because it's home. I've lived here for 21 out of the last 25 years.
And Liam, you said you had been in the Caymans for a very long time. Can you give us the 30,000-foot lay of the land on the Cayman economy?
The Cayman economy, as Adam alluded to, is the strongest in the Caribbean, with a GDP per capita that's close to $90,000 US. That also ranks it, or places it 10th in the global rankings, just to show you what an important marketplace it is. The economy has 3 main sectors: financial services, construction, and tourism. Financial services continues to grow from strength to strength year on year by diversifying and expanding the products that they offer, capitalizing most recently on the growth of hedge funds, private equity, and captive insurance. Construction industry is a little bit different. By its very nature, it's more cyclical, and it tends to have peaks and troughs that occur during each 10-year cycle. Tourism, both stayover and cruise ship, is sort of continues to plod along, not at any particularly great pace. And many feel in Cayman that there's significant potential for this sector to grow, particularly in the sort of stayover luxury segment. And certainly there are indications that this growth may be on the horizon if plans to develop the Mandarin Oriental and Four Seasons resorts, with branded residential components come to fruition. I think Fleur will talk a little bit more about that later. Looking sort of briefly at the Caribbean region as a whole, our research that we did recently on activity and costs indicates that the majority of jurisdictions have experienced notable increases in construction activity prior to and in the aftermath of COVID. And this in turn has led to significant increases in construction costs across the board that have averaged over the last 24 months, 19% regionally. However, we've also seen a robust recovery post-COVID in the tourism sector, which is obviously the most important economic contributor for most Caribbean islands, with the 3 KPIs of average daily rate, occupancy, and revenue per available room already breaking the records that were set in the pre-COVID highs of 2019. Biggest differentiator between the Cayman economy and the rest of the region currently is that despite significant escalation in construction costs, real estate values have increased way more in percentage terms, thereby increasing project viability rather than impacting it negatively. This clearly has not been the case in much of the Caribbean, where values have increased, but more at a similar rate to costs. So this has obviously resulted in the more opportunistic developers looking at Cayman as a market they want to be in.
And so within the Caymans, there's Georgetown and several other islands. Do you think that there's more opportunity in Georgetown or within
Well,
some
yeah,
of the other
I mean,
islands?
Grand Cayman is by far the largest island and has the bulk of the population. And whilst values have increased significantly in the two sister islands, Little Cayman and Cayman Brac, I think that there is more, or it's probably more opportunity for developing in Grand Cayman than the sister islands, just because of the bigger challenges in building in small island jurisdictions. The logistics of building in Little Cayman are way more challenging than they are if you're building in Grand Cayman.
For DART in the Caymans, obviously that's home for you guys regarding development infrastructure. You guys are a dominant force and a large entity there. One project in particular that I want us to touch base on is Cayman Bay, large mixed-use project. Would you be able to kind of share with our audience a bit about that project, your company's overall vision regarding development in the Caymans, in particular with Cayman Bay?
Yeah, Cayman Bay, it was initiated by the purchase of the West Indian Club back in the mid-90s. It's approximately 200 acres. It's a master planned community, and over the years, Cayman Bay has grown from about 200 plus acres to over 700 acres now. But when you look at the core of Cayman Bay, only just around 20 acres have been developed, and that is the core. Currently, we have about 1 million square feet of developed buildings here at Cayman Bay. We have it's a mixed-use development, so we have the International School, which we developed as part of the Kenneth Dart Foundation, which has about 1,100 pupils. We have residential, build-to-rent residential. We have residential for sale, although that's a pretty much limited basis. We have commercial space, which is growing significantly in the last year alone. 2 weeks ago, we opened 60 Nexus Way here at Cayman Bay, which is an additional 197,000 square feet of net leasable area. And unlike other properties, commercial buildings that we've had here at Cayman Bay, that building's been extremely successful in the lease up. And we've seen a huge impact of what Liam sort of touched on, the financial services. One of the biggest impact that Cayman's faced over the last few years. In 2019, the Private Fund Act came into law, and that increased the amount of funds coming to Cayman threefold. In 2018, there was 10,800 mutual funds registered in Cayman to a value of about $7 trillion asset value, and that's now tripled in value for Cayman in terms of number of funds. So that has brought a lot of business to Cayman, and that is in addition to the post-COVID spike that people were spending money and coming to visit the Cayman Islands as well as investing. That has really put the economy on steroids for the last couple of years, I think, and maybe Flo and Liam can add more to that.
That's amazing. And would you say the demographic is definitely a mixed demographic with locals, expats?
100%. 100%. As Liam alluded to, it's 70 to 80,000. The government can never sort of tell us the fixed number. It's out there in that range. But it's approximately 50-50. It's always been about 50-50 in terms of Caymanians versus expatriates here in Cayman, with over 100 nationalities in Cayman. And that is one of the differentiators in the hotels here in Grand Cayman. Whereas if you go to the Bahamas or you go to other locations, it's very localized, the employment. But in Cayman, there's a lot of opportunities for young kids to get involved in law, finance, which are seen by their parents as more of an attractive industry to be involved in. So the Cayman Islands have that a term limit on work permits here. So there is the ability, if you cannot satisfy the demand by filling those jobs with locals, you can bring in expatriates, which adds there's a bit of a melting pot of different nationalities within that 40,000 expatriate community.
And regarding just pipeline projects that you guys are focused on bringing online, let's, kind of additional to the hotel and hospitality space. I know that you guys have Hotel Indigo on the pipeline as well. And it's kind of a lifestyle integration, mixed use similarity, but more on the hospitality side. So you've got the mixed use residential. How do you guys feel in terms of in terms of projecting that success rate, integrating that lifestyle component on the hospitality side as well as just the mixed use?
Yeah, the hospitality is very interesting to me. I find it a very interesting industry to be involved in. In 2011, the company bought a big tract of land here in Grand Cayman, and on that piece of land was a courtyard by Marriott. At that stage, the ownership wasn't too keen on the hospitality industry. However, that sort of forced the hand a little bit to do something with it. After a lot of trial and remakes, we actually decided to demolish the hotel and build the Kimpton Seafire. That Kimpton Seafire was, at that time, Kimpton had about 50, 60 hotels all their hotels were in the US. So this was their first overseas outside North America product. When we was looking at the studies for the hotel, we was really looking at positioning it below the Ritz-Carlton here, but above the other brands. And now that we've reached stabilization on the Kimpton Seafire, it's pretty much head to head with the Ritz-Carlton on a number of levels. It's one of the things what I was going to touch on later. The asset management teams have been very successful, as well as the on-site management. They have, for the first time, we've got awarded 3 5-star ratings across 3 hotels that we have. One is the Kimpton Seafire, which is the first time Kimpton ever been awarded a 5-star Forbes, and the Ritz-Carlton, which they've achieved that before, but it's great to have it again. And last year we acquired the Four Seasons in Anguilla, and we achieved the Forbes 5 stars for that hotel, which was the first time actually it received that rating, which is great. So we've got 3 5 stars across 3 brands on 2 islands. So we are looking at the Indigo and actually open in April next year as a 282 key hotel with the first 10th floor rooftop bar. So it's pretty much a lifestyle hotel. It's set back from the beach, but whereas the Kimpton Seafire has pretty much become the flagship for the Kimpton, where they've been able to go to other islands and other destinations around the Caribbean and worldwide to say this is our number 1 product. People can come to Cayman, see the product, and feel and witness that. And I think that the Indigo will be similar for the IHG brand. One of the reasons why we went with Indigo, because it's part of the IHG family, and we get huge synergies between the 2 hotels, the employment agency, the buying agreements, procurement, et cetera, et cetera. So we've really leveraged that across both properties.
That's fantastic. So it's very well thought out with design, placemaking in terms of the urbanism. I've noticed that in a lot of your projects as well. So that's fantastic.
Property, buying real estate in the Cayman is one of the ways to citizenship, right? There's a couple of different tiers. You have a certain investment to get you residency. What can you tell us about the mechanics of buying in the Caymans and how that might differ from other places?
So Cayman's pretty straightforward in buying on the islands. You go through the process of pretty much just finding your agent. There's a lot of us there, so there's a lot of choices of agents. Your agent will, obviously meet with you and discuss what your needs are. Then they go off and do their homework. They set up all the showings. When you finally find a place that works for you and the family, we'll then get the offer in. The offer goes in. If it's slightly under, it goes back and forth a few times maybe. But if it's on, spot on, we get the offer accepted, and then we get the lawyers involved, and we take it from there. Most offers, it can take anywhere between 2 weeks after the closing and 2 weeks before, up to 6 weeks, depending on the conditions that are in there. The longest condition normally on the island will be finances to satisfy. So the finance normally takes about 5 to 6 weeks. Buying residency in Cayman, we have the option of residency by investment. 25 years for each person would be at 1.25 million. And then if you want a lifetime residency, it'd be 2.4 million for you and your family. So we've found a lot, especially since COVID, a lot of people have actually been reaching out for the residency by investment for a lifetime for them and the family, which is 2.4 US million. Very straightforward. You can own more than 1 property on the island. The island obviously has gone up since the last 30 years. It's amazing the changes in pricing on the island. I mean, 7 Mile Beach 30, 40 years ago, you could buy a parcel for $1 million. Now that parcel is probably 50 million worth. So we're finding that it's definitely been, the island's changed so much in 20, 30 years, but it's a very straightforward procedure, process. As soon as the lawyers get involved and the agents work with the lawyers directly, it's really smooth sailing.
Titles are guaranteed by the government, so that's something correct. Also makes it easier.
So it makes it a lot easier, and it's covered by, it's insured, so it is actually a very easy place to buy on this island. The KYC obviously is quite a big part. Everyone assumes Cayman's kind of KYC part, the due diligence part, is easy. It's not. I mean, I even down to being a Caymanian and trying to transfer money, the amount of KYC they constantly ask you to have. So it's definitely up. They keep it maintained. But it is a very easy process to buy on island. And as soon as you find your agent and your lawyer, it's all and all the legal side and all the agents work very closely together anyway. So it is very straightforward.
Excellent. Well, it must be because you shared that you are running out of inventory already at the Mandarin.
Well, we've had the whole island is actually well, Mandarin we've sold 40% of, and we haven't broken ground yet. Kimpton, as Robert says, the Kimpton there were 64 units, and at one stage we were selling 2 in a week, 3 in a week. Those actually, the Kimpton units have gone from, I think 2 years ago we sold 1 3-bedroom for 3.75, and within the same year it sold for 5.6 million without getting any changes to it. So it just goes to show what is happening in the industry and what is going up. 7 Mile Beach is only 5.5 miles, so everybody wants a piece of it. It pretty much is the area to be on. But we're finding, I mean, I think in Cayman there's over 200 billionaires who've got residency on island or have some residence on the island or the sister island. So it's a huge, this island is definitely, there's not much land left. So it's definitely a kind of a beautiful place to live, beautiful, safe. I think safety is one of our main things for people. So we're finding the buyers are also safety, security, especially since COVID, they're saying, well, if anything like that happens again, they want a place for their family to live. So we're finding most of my buyers now are 2nd and 3rd homes. And they just really want somewhere to, escape for a few months on end with the family and have safety. I mean, the island for the safety aspect is huge. I think we have 54 direct cities that we can fly directly to nowadays. So even the travel side of it is just, it's really easy compared to what it used to be.
Excellent. Well, it sounds like you guys are on fire.
Can I just say, when you mentioned that title is insured by the government, that is a green flag. That's fantastic. Definitely not something you hear often in the Caribbean. So Timothy, let's bring you on board here. Sterling Capital. So you guys are a dominant force in the Bahamas predominantly, and now you've entered into the Cayman market. Can you kind of explain to our audience a bit more about who Sterling Capital is and what differentiates you as a both financial and development player in the game?
Sure. Thanks very much. So I just have to say that for the folks that are listening, the uniqueness of Cayman, it is very, very unique. My last job in retirement was running the Caribbean for RBC. So I touched just about every single island in the Caribbean as we went around, and Cayman is absolutely unique. It's a first world country in the Caribbean. That's the best way to describe it. And so what is Sterling Global Financial? In fact, it's 4 different lines of business, just to give you quickly. And this is why we're in Cayman. If you actually hear all of the things that make Cayman, well, we have the oldest trust company in Cayman, Sterling Trust, which is now in a joint venture. We've joined in a joint venture with JTC, which is a global player out of the UK. We domicile our open-ended mutual fund, Sterling Mortgage Income Fund, in the Cayman. And why? Because of the strength of the professionals in the Caymans, which is second to none. We also launched a bank a few years ago, and then we've now partnered with a group from Mauritius, the Hindusha family. And if you look them up, they're the wealthiest non-domiciled family in the UK. And we have done mortgages in and out of the Cayman on a regular basis for at least the last 10 years. And then the last bit of what the business is, it is an integrated development company. And so I use the term of the old GE Capital world. If we lend to something, we're very willing to own it because we know how to own it, we know how to run it. And there's a couple of industry sectors that we're really, really focused on because of our focus on the high net worth and the ultra high net worth individual. Marinas is one. We built a super yacht marina and it's open now in the Nassau, Bahamas. And the second is hospitality. We think right now hospitality is as good as it's been maybe since 2013 as an open into it. And so we're building the Hyatt in Grand Cayman. We also have a development of condos on the south end of the island called Indigo Bay, not to be confused with Indigo Hotel, just for absolute clarity. And we finished that. We have 5 units still for sale, and we have another batch of land for us to be able to build about 20 more units, depending on how we want to go. I think what we haven't moved yet is exactly where do you put it in the market from a price point, because you can pick just about anywhere in the price point just to make sure that it actually gets sold. The thing about Cayman, which is very interesting now, is the folks that we see moving to Cayman, and Fleur, you referenced who's coming to Cayman, are the same folks or same type of folks that are coming to the Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos right now. And it's a large number of Americans and a large number of Canadians who are looking for safety, not just of the physical safety on the island, but it's actually safety of their capital outside of their home country, whether that be the United States or Canada. Canada has a bigger tax play than the Americans, but the Americans are taxed globally. So there's just really physically moving out of the country just in case, the United States goes to the proverbial hell in a handbasket. And so, that's why we're in Cayman. It's vibrant across multiple lines. We think there's lots more to do. I was in Cayman not too long ago, and I said, have you ever been to Aruba? Because if you've been to the big beach in Aruba, there's just tower after tower after tower after tower of high quality, high end hotels. And if I go out 25 years, that's what I think Cayman's going to look like. So even though there's no land, I think there's lots of redevelopment plays coming over the next 20, 25 years.
That's actually a great point, because I was curious when Fleur mentioned, there's a scarce amount of land, but living in Miami, right, where there's a lot of redevelopment opportunities. So that's something that's really great to know for future investors, future developers. Are you guys planning, I'm assuming, to stay in Cayman? I know that obviously Bahamas is your large territory, but just, I know you don't have to disclose any information now, but just, looking to.
So Emily, while we have been very successful in the Caribbean in the last little while, we also do business we have offices in the United States, offices in Canada, offices in the UK. And so we do business in all of those jurisdictions. I just didn't go through them all because they're not relevant to the conversation today.
No worries, no worries.
Yeah, but we will. I mean, Cayman, Cayman is the place to be in the Caribbean, right? It's and if not at least one of the top three, depending on where your focus is and how you want to develop. We are building a Montage hotel, which is, a 6-star is the term in Abaco. And we know Montage is looking for places all over the place. They just announced the Pendry in Barbados.
What are some ideas that you guys have thought of, through your 20+ year track record in the industry, as to how we could really educate the masses as to why these locations are great investment opportunities?
One question would be, well, what happens if they say, okay, we're coming? So what do you do now? So it's like, where's the office space, and where's what Fleur was mentioning, where's the residential, and where's what can we sell them? So we need to connect those dots. We do have, to a certain extent, incubator areas for commercial businesses, whereby somebody said, okay, I need a couple thousand square feet for a few people to come down in the first instance. We do have offices for that reason, that people can go into, that feeds in, and they will feed into other commercial space. So that is also part of that ecosystem. You attract people to Cayman, but then what? You need to continue with that cycle and close it out. And then you see from Cayman, financial services is key to the industry here, but there is also other industries coming to Cayman, like the blockchain guys. You see reinsurance. You see a lot of these industries starting to discover Cayman, and along with those people come the companies that are associated with them, or need to feed those companies. So you get the halo effect of that. So it is growing. It's just not in just one specific industry, but you need to close out that ecosystem if you're going to get into that business.
I think that, yeah, I think the growth has to be planned and sustainable, doesn't it? It's basically, yes, for every sector of society.
Yeah.
Particularly.
Okay, so the Caymans are the 5th largest banking center in the entire world, which is crazy, especially for how small it is. So how does that affect the overall economy and the built environment? 1 minute each. Liam?
All right, I think the impact on the built environment is probably twofold. As mentioned, the banking sector and related financial services industry demands, the highest quality Class A office space, and that's resulted in 2 outstanding developments. One, Cayman Bay, which is mixed use, and the other, Cricket Square, which is predominantly office space. And I think without the financial services and the confidence that brings to the island, there'd be little if no demand for that type of office space. And then looking at sort of the condo market, I think, although somewhat intangible, there's obviously a correlation between real estate values and the offshore financial services industry, because of the confidence that industry gives to the island. Because you have these anomalies. Fleur mentioned last week that the condo sales are sort of topping $3,000 a square foot, and in some of these new developments on 7 Mile Beach. And and you take that development and plonk it on, say, Grace Bay and Providenciales, which is a beach of equal quality, and that unit's selling for $1,500 a square foot. So there's obviously that additional confidence that's provided by the backdrop of the financial services industry has created that anomaly, and the sales prices that we see here that aren't attainable anywhere else.
In addition to what Liam and Fleur said there, I think another important factor to remember is, I know you spoke about the GDP, and one of the good things for Cayman is that the government always run a surplus here. They run a surplus, and they announced last week that the government spend come 2026 will be $1 billion in Cayman, $1 billion for a population of 80,000. So that goes to show you that the amount of revenue to coming through the government and to continue to run that surplus is very beneficial to the Cayman Islands. Yes, they have great infrastructure, but other issues, yes, that we still need to sort out the traffic and a few other bits and pieces, but it's going in the right direction. During COVID, the airport was expanded to allow for taxi and runways, which increased the capacity of the airport to over 2 million passengers a year, which was great. And we hope that continues with further expansion with the FBO there at Owen Roberts.
Cayman definitely attracts a large or a high-end number of billionaires over to Cayman. And with them, they are spending, lawyers, accountants, anyone in the financial industry, service providers, and they are spending, obviously coming here, they're spending a lot of money on the island, maintaining the island. It's tax neutral, so we get one tax, which is stamp duty tax when you're buying or purchasing something, property. But all these people are spending a lot of money on Ireland, and they're also giving jobs out. I mean, so you've got developers coming on the island and giving a lot of jobs out to the locals. So there, I think in Cayman, there's no homeless on the island. It's very, very wealthy island. But I do think with all the jobs that are going out and all the money that's spent on Ireland, it's very, very, very great. It was an amazing place to live.
Yeah, and to support that, Flora, another thing to add is during COVID, when the island was basically shut for 2 years to visitors, the Kimpton Seafire remained open.
Yeah.
And that was fed by on-island visitors and on the F&B and the hotel, and it didn't lose a huge amount of money, but it was still able to continue to operate through those 2 years, which is quite a testament to what Flo was saying there, is the on-island spend that you see on the F&B, you see it in the spas, you see it on his ancillary benefits to the hospitality assets. It's huge.
Yeah, and I think government saw that through the receipts and the revenue it generated on import duty, because instead of people going to Miami shopping every month,
yeah,
they all bought online, and I think the government were absolutely amazed at how much revenue they brought in with that 22% import duty on everything that came in, with online shopping to the island.
And Liam, to add to that, the shops on island at Cayman Bay, when they could do a delivery service, they drop it at your door. You choose online, they send you a picture, they drop it at your door, and they said they had the best year they'd ever had in history. So it definitely goes to show. But even in 2004, Hurricane Ivan, which was the worst hurricane we had, even then we were up and running. Pretty much within 2 or 3 months, we lost AC and everything, but we were up and running within 2 or 3 months after losing electricity. And because there's so much money on the island, we were able to recover very quickly.
Wow.
Yeah, and everybody was insured, whereas you have an event in the Eastern Caribbean, there's like 15% insurance coverage. Everybody in Cayman was insured and appropriately insured.
Yeah. I'd give one bit of advice that I've given to many people who have taken their businesses over my 30-year career. When you go into a new market, go looking for the differences, not the similarities, because they'll use the same language, the same terms, the same extra, but they actually might mean something very different. So, just go in looking for the differences, not because, as you say, Liam, this type of report means something different here versus there, and the quality of those things. So that'd be just a high level advice I'd give.
But as we move into the breakout rooms, this is the best part. So please stay on, turn on your screen, engage with each other, and engage with our speakers. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and move us into the rooms.
National contractors come to the island, or do you have the workforce to support
Yeah,
on-
that's a good.
on-
That's a good question. I mean, over the years, I mean, I got here like 20 odd years ago, and it's transitioned. When the Ritz-Carlton was being built in the early 2000s, Fleur Daniels came down from the States, and their management team, and they hired a lot of offshore companies to come down. But to have a company in Cayman, you need to have a local partner who owns like 60% of the company. So a lot of local contractors partnered with overseas companies. But as the markets evolved, a lot of the contractors are based on island. But obviously, if you get one or two big projects, that
you can stay,
squeeze, right?
yeah.
Exactly. It gets a bit of a squeeze, and so it's all supply and demand, but primarily it's all on island contractors. So that's advanced, and that's created record employment on the island. There's not many unemployed on the island, so it's quite self-sufficient from that perspective. But sometimes you need to bring people in to do certain tasks.
Well,
but overwhelmingly it's local.
great.
Fleur, I have a question for you, and this is kind of my question I'm asking as I go from room to room. How do you see the social dynamics of development playing out on the Cayman Islands? I know there's a lot of outside investment coming in, and how does that impact the locals that live there? What is your understanding of that relationship?
Funny enough, so I'm from a Caribbean background. Obviously, my mum, she's from Nassau originally. She's lived in the Bahamas, so we've been between Bahamas and Cayman Islands. I do think we're very lucky here compared to most islands, because we call it Cayman Kind, and it's advertised everywhere. It's called Cayman Kind, and it really is. It's huge on this island that, as an expat compared to locals, everyone gets on really well because there's money on the island. That's really the key. If there wasn't, there'd be more issues. And obviously you'll still find the odd, oh, well, you're expat and things, but we get very little of that considering what we could get. I mean, we are very blessed in Cayman that everyone does look out for everyone else. I've got all my local friends, I've got all my expat friends, everyone's, all friends together. So there's no division there.
What can you tell us about the green financing? Because from our perspective, one of the ways is, or one of the discussions that we're having with our investors is that the returns, they may accept a little bit lower returns because it's a better project, but is that sustainable? And what are the other dynamics to help offset that?
Yeah, so again, I'm not
returns?
going to claim to be an expert, but I'm doing a lot of research to try and, get up to speed as to what will work in the future. And I think the biggest question for folks in the capital markets world is, will people accept lower yields for things that make the world a better place? You just kind of go, why isn't everything run by solar? And the answer is because the power grid is owned by somebody, right?
Yes.
They're not about to give it up. They've invested $100 million in the power grid. They're not just going to go, oh, it's okay, you can have it, and turn it into the solar. Like, people don't do that, right? They're just, but what I'm waiting for to see is actually if Barbados, because there are rumors they're going to be the first small country to break the rules and just say, too bad, we're going solar. Because somebody's going to have to do that, right? And fight the court battles and, pay off the owner of the grids.
Our breakout room was amazing. I hope everyone's now a big, happy family. And you've all exchanged emails and contacts. And, just big shout out to, Emily and Amanda for their great hosting and moderation and leadership, and our speakers. You guys have been really, really insightful, and just honored, again, always to have ULI Caribbean and join our group. Alvaro wants to organize a trip to the Cayman Islands. And I told him he can take leadership, and I think Robert he didn't say this, but he'll give us a tour of Camana, and we'll all be very excited. And I'm sure Fleur will be available with her amazing hospitality as always.
I'll bring the wine.
That's
I'm a good
perfect.
bartender.
That's perfect.
That was great, guys. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you so
Thank you very much,
much.
everyone.
Thank you. Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Right.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Take care, guys.